Okay, cool. So first of all, I'd just like to thank everyone for being here. Um, Super excited for this event. And so I will throw it over to Anna from Capgemini to talk a little bit about their RISE program.
Hi, everyone. Thanks, Kendall. I'm Anna. Since we have a small group, please, I want this to be casual and pretty interactive. So not even at the Q&A portion, just stop me if you guys have questions. I won't be able to see the chat while I'm presenting right now. So just come off of mute and let me know if you have questions. The first part is really just to talk about Capgemini as a whole, the firm, because ultimately the purpose of RISE is great experience for your resume, a bigger look into consulting. But for us, it's so that we can hire you for 2022. And I want us to talk about RISE because it is a pretty different program. But I also want to make sure that you understand Capgemini and the values that we have as a firm that hopefully align with your values and what you're looking for when you think about a full-time job offer. So that's why the presentation has two parts essentially. But I'm Anna. I am a campus recruiter. I've been with the Capgemini for over 4 years, and I've had a few different roles. And I'll touch on that in a little bit, but I am the West Coast recruiter. I'm the Atlanta recruiter. I recruit for Orlando, for Canada. So even if you're not interested in staying in the West Coast, I'm a great contact for you to have for any locations that you're interested in, even from an international perspective or from a perspective of different areas of our business, because there's different recruiters there. So I'll touch on all of that, but I'm really appreciative of you guys having me. I was able to come and be in person and do an information session. I feel like just last year or a year and a half ago. So to switch and do it virtually, obviously you guys are used to it now, but thank you for having me back. Okay, so let's get started. So Capgemini, we're a global IT consulting firm that is the short business card spiel, but we are different in the marketplace in the sense that we are people focused primarily. So you'll see other firms that are IT or just consulting in general or accounting, or they're specific to other areas, but we differentiate ourselves in the marketplace a lot by the people that we have and putting a focus on the abilities of our individual consultants that work together in order to perform and provide the best product to our client. And that is not just a tagline. That over the last 4 years is something that's extremely real in a lot of the aspects of the day-to-day job. So from an onboarding perspective, when you first start and you don't know anything, all the way to your promotion to a manager, every single step is built with how can you continue to encourage the people around you, your coworkers, yourself. What do you want to get out of your career? What kind of growth do you see? What's the human aspect? A lot of times that's taken away. So just something that has allowed me to grow into a career path that is sustainable for my life. And sometimes that's not always the case. So we are just different. We're people focused. And I just want you guys to remember that. So here's just some general statistics. These are pretty outdated, apologies on this slide, but just showing the global scale of what our firm was at in 2018. And, let's add a couple thousand onto that now in 2021. So we have offices all over the world. For purposes of this call, I am just the North America recruiter in the sense that our main hub offices are what we're going to be recruiting for full-time. So Atlanta, San Francisco, Seattle, Burbank, Chicago, New York, those offices are what we should be focusing on for the purposes of this call. But the ability to cross borders is not going to be limited if you do decide to become an employee with us. So just something to keep in mind. And I always like to add our values. It kind of makes it a little bit, like I said, more human. Yes, 270,000 employees in global, IT is a little bit daunting, but when we take it back to the more human side of things and just like core values. So these aren't like campus specific. These are values that the entire firm was built on 50 years ago and what still hold true to what we do in all of the business that we do today. So it's interesting when you think about fun being a core value 50 years ago for a firm that still stands true today. It's just not something you see all the time. So it's something that I like to point out. Hopefully, if you have thought about what you want to do with your full-time career, core values are something that are important to you. And maybe because there's 7, I'm hoping that there's some translation between what you've thought about and what you see for Capgemini. They are instilled in everything that we do from the interview process. Like I said, all the way until you're the CEO at a global level, it drives a lot of the business that we take, a lot of business that we decide not to take. So just important to mention. And then of course I've got to talk about, yeah, the global aspect is cool, but you guys want to know what type of clients we work with. So this is a very, scratching of the surface of the type of companies that we work with that hire us to do work for them. And if maybe you're not as familiar with consulting, the best part about it is that you get the benefits of Capgemini, which is the salary, the health insurance, things like that, the networking ability, the training, all of those great things. But based off of your projects, they're going to be with different companies. So you have the ability to be a Capgemini employee and still work with Google and still work with Amazon and Boeing and T-Mobile and Delta and all of these awesome places. But you get to transition and you can try different things. So not only are the industries going to be different throughout your career, the type of work that you do based off of the project scope is going to be different. So it allows you to really stay, kind of always challenging yourself. It allows you to become really, really good in areas that, make you an expert that people are going to want forever, right? So there's a lot of really great things about it. It's really fast paced. You'll learn a lot more than you would if you went, let's say, just straight to an industry job, let's say at Starbucks corporate, because you're going to be constantly coming in, doing rapid implementations, leaving, going to the next thing. So you're going to become an expert, but hopefully you've recognized one of these awesome companies on this page, and they get you excited for a multitude of reasons, but this kind of just scratches the surface for the work that we're doing. Okay, so I'm going to transition a little bit into Rise. Before I do, are there any general Capgemini questions that you have? And I will talk about anything that you want to talk about. So if you do, just feel free to unmute yourself and we can talk through it. Okay. All right, I'll keep going, but stop me if you have anything else that you want to ask. So Rise was born in a boardroom that I was sitting in 2 years ago, and it really just came out of necessity. We know the traditional internship program, you hopefully do work that's important. You hope that what your projects do go to see a client one day or that they add value to the firm. But a lot of times it ends up being just busy work, and it takes a lot of time to get clearance and credentials and a laptop and all of that stuff. And by the time you know it, your 8 weeks of summer in your internship program have gone by and you feel like you've been making PowerPoints or creating lists or, kind of busy work. And we don't want that. It's hard for us to be able to say, join us after you've had this like mediocre experience. We want to be dynamic and we want to change the environment. And what we've created out of that is Rise. So the exciting part is it is new in the sense that it's not being done by any of their firms, but it's also driven out of necessity, which is something that I feel like in consulting is such a big piece. We don't need to reinvent the wheel, but if something isn't working, we definitely want to stop and change it. And Rise is a brilliant example of why we're dynamic in our space, because we see changes and we make them happen. So Rise, it's a 4-day, essentially case study or hackathon where you work in teams and then you present a solution to a problem at the end of the 4 days. So it's exciting because we're going to give you a realistic problem statement that's either something that's happening with our clients right now, something that's happening in the environment that we're in. And we give you all of the tools that we would use that potentially are proprietary to Capgemini or require like major licensing deals, to be able to, as a team, put together a solution that you'll present at the end. So it's really exciting in the sense that you don't exactly know what you're getting yourself into. You're going to be on a new team with students from across the country, but you'll have the support of all of Capgemini behind you. So that's from me, from a recruiter perspective, leading the program, all the way to our CEO coming in and looking into your presentations, coming to talk to your teams, being able to be a little bit more of a realistic anomaly in this situation, as opposed to just a name that you see on a website. So there's a lot of really, really high touch points. even with it being virtual this year as it is, there is a lot of impact that we're trying to have in 4 days. So we'll get into a few examples in a second, but it's just really exciting for me as we continue. This is going to be our 3rd year. We are making improvements constantly. So that's like a really high level spiel of Rise. From a logistical perspective, if you see at the bottom, so the dates are August 10th through the 13th. So the goal is that it's at the end of the summer before you go back to your last year of school. But we also want you to feel comfortable diversifying your summer. So go out. If you already have a full-time internship, that's fine. Keep it. We want you to be able to compare 2 firms essentially at the end of the summer, hopefully with 2 full-time job offers. And we're pretty confident after these last 2 years that you'll choose us, even receiving 2 job offers. So that's really what we're hedging our bets against, is that we can give you a better experience in these 4 days, show you more about Capgemini, get to know you a lot more too, from not just one person that's a mentor that you might check in with once a week for a summer-long internship. There's a lot of really high touch points, like I mentioned. So the program itself is going to be taking place where we have to like categorize it so that it's a little bit more digestible than just 250 students in this program. So it's going to be virtually housed based off of where you want to start your full-time job. So one thing that I want to mention that is where we're also transitioning in like this newer space for Capgemini as a whole. So where you see the program locations, Columbia, Houston, and Nashville, those are actually our centers. So they're offices, they're main offices, but they are operating different than, let's say, our Atlanta office would. And I'll tell you why in a second. And then we have one program that's going to be kind of like the catch-all for the rest of the cities. So San Francisco, New York, Atlanta, we'll make sure that all of the students who want those locations as their full-time job location will kind of group you into one. But the centers are cool, and they're really, a little bit revolutionary in this time, because as opposed to being aligned, for example, to our San Francisco office and living in San Francisco, you would be going to your client site every day of the week. And if you weren't on that project, you would go to the Capgemini office. But constantly changing, like I mentioned, different clients, different locations, different industries. The center-based approach is supposed to give the more realistic sense of a more regular 9-to-5 job. So in Columbia, for example, you would still go to the Columbia office, but it would be every single day. And you would be working then virtually on huge projects happening all over the world. So the work that you're doing is still going to be relevant and changing and dynamic, but you'll have a little bit more of a normal office space in the sense of this is your desk, and it's going to be your desk the entire time you're an employee, as opposed to, for example, our San Francisco office, where you'll come in and out, you'll do happy hours there. Maybe you'll spend a week there working in between projects, but the majority of your time would be spent on that client site. So they're just a little bit different. Our Nashville office is also like brand new. We are still working out like the actual building itself in downtown Nashville right now. So I'm not sure if anyone is eager to go on the West Coast or the East Coast, but we do have a lot of great opportunities out there. So on the application, just make sure we ask you your top 3 location preferences. Just make sure that you take some time and you think about your first choice, because a lot of that is going to drive where we see, specific skill sets being needed. So things might be different in Atlanta than they are in Houston, and that's okay. But we want to cater the offer at the end of the you feel most confident with. And things change. I totally get that you're going to go through another year of school, and if you need to update it, you can. But just keep that in mind, that we're forward thinking a little bit more than just August itself. We're thinking into 2022.
And I think you might have froze for a second. Can you hear me?
Last summer going into your senior year, this is the same kind of concept. So just keep that in mind, that we are looking for graduates in 2022. So next year, which sounds really crazy and a long time away. So I'm going to pause again. Any initial questions on Rise or anything that I've mentioned so far? Okay, I'll keep going. This is a video that I just wanted to share. We just created a highlight reel from our first program that we ever did in 2019. This one was in person, but it still gives you kind of an idea of what the program looks like with a little bit more context than just what I'm sharing. So let me play it. One second. Can you still hear me and see me?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes, you're good.
Okay, my screen is frozen. So 1 second. Okay. Can you see this?
Rise is an exciting new opportunity for us at Capgemini, and the way we look at bringing in new.
The screen is frozen for me right now.
Okay, it's frozen for you too. Okay, it is for mine too. Let's just see if I'll play it right here and zoom it in.
Okay, and one thing, maybe we can all turn our, we can all turn our cameras off because I think videos play better on Zoom when the cameras are off. So maybe we can do that just for now.
Good idea. Okay, how about I send the video out afterwards and you guys can take a look at it?
Yeah, that sounds good. I will
Great.
post it in our Slack channel and make sure everyone can get a chance to see it.
Okay, I think my Wi-Fi is just struggling.
Don't worry about it.
But
It's happened to all of us. So
yeah, right. You guys are like, no. Okay, but you can still see now it says interview process.
Yes.
Okay, perfect. All right. Pretend you just saw a great video. I'll send the link out afterwards. It's really awesome. It's like 2 minutes, but it will give you a little bit more of an idea of what the program looks like, especially from the student perspective. So make sure to watch that. So the interview process for Rise. So interviews are actually actively happening right now. So we have a goal to have everyone interviewed and confirmed for the program this month in April. So just keep in mind that the application will close in just a few weeks. So make sure it's a fairly simple Google form that the application, it shouldn't take more than 4 minutes to fill out. So just make sure that if you are interested, even slightly, that you fill it out so we can make sure to get you involved in the process. And just to, have some clarity and stay transparent about the process, every single applicant goes through a resume review process. And then if the teams like your resume, then we invite you to have 2 interviews that are going to happen on video. And then up to 2 weeks afterwards, that's the only time that we'll have you wait before you find out if you're invited officially to the program or not. It's really simple. The purpose of Rise, obviously, is so that you can get to know Capgemini, you can understand consulting more, you can diversify your summer and get more skills, but it's also a really great opportunity to share a lot more about you to us. So a typical interview for us in the full-time is going to be like a couple of video interviews in one day, and that's it. And you're going to be speaking with only one-on-one with different people. So this, to me, the program gives you a really, really good opportunity to share what you like to do, what you don't like to do, how you work in a group, how you solve problems, how you evaluate things when they're maybe not going so great. So personally, I think it's a great opportunity if anyone is like scared of interviews or not sure. These 2 quick phone interviews will be lightning quick. And then the program itself, you'll really be able to share your skills with us. So to me, I think it's a great opportunity. So I wanted to give a little bit more context. So this is just a super, super high level schedule of what you can expect during the August dates themselves. So we've shifted the program. It used to be 3 days. Now we've added another half day because students decided that after every program, they're just like, we need more time to work on our problems. So day 1, it's all virtual, like I mentioned before, but it's a program kickoff that happens. We'll separate you into your teams. You'll get to know who your teams are. Every team is assigned a coach and a buddy. So a coach is a manager employee who has been here for a tenured amount of time. And a buddy is someone who's more of a recent hire. So you'll have 2 very direct perspectives that are not only helping you just learn more about the company, but they're going to be providing direct mentorship and guidance on your problem statement itself. So they're there for a lot of reasons. We'll do like little activities throughout the entire 4 days just to make sure that you're aligned. That's where you'll be able to use new programs and skill sets. It's really exciting. I hope it doesn't sound boring. I promise they're exciting. And then there's just general work time that will happen on the first day, followed with the social activity. So we want you to get to know the people in your team, which you obviously will, but we also want to get to know all of the students who want to go to Atlanta afterwards, or all the students who are going to be at the Columbia Center. That networking aspect is going to be huge, not only in Rise, but also just in consulting in general. So we want to give you opportunities to get the social aspect as well. Day 2, we'll have a lot of executives. Like I mentioned, there'll be anyone from a principal level to our CEO who joined us on a lot of calls last year. So it's something really exciting and tangible. It's not just going to always be one person talking to 250 people. It could be an executive vice president talking to your team of 6. So there's a lot of face-to-face time and really, really valuable question and answer time that I think will give you a lot of clarity about the program, consulting, your future, where you want to be one day, things like that. And then we'll talk about corporate social responsibility on day 2. It's just, a lot is happening in our world, and consulting doesn't always have the best rap. Burnout is something that people talk about all the time in this industry. So we're going to share with you how we're different, how we're able to mitigate those risks, how you're able to have a work-life balance, how things that are not client-facing get to stay important in your life, like volunteering or staying active, like physically. So all of those things will be covered. Again, just more in depth into what Capgemini offers from a company culture perspective. Day 3, again, just like general working time, it really is ending on day 4 with just the presentations themselves. The really exciting part is, so let's say everyone wants to go to the Columbia Rise program. So we might have 5 teams there. So they will all present, and then a winner will be chosen from the Columbia program. And those winners get to pick like actual prizes, like cameras, Nespresso, speakers, things like that. So that's the really cool part, right? Hopefully a full-time job offer, but also some awesome prizes. And then the winner of each program will then go head to head, and there will ultimately be one team that wins all of Rise, and they get, the next level of prize, which we haven't decided yet, but I think it's going to be awesome. And then you can have major bragging rights, and you get to say, holy crap, we just crushed that 4-day presentation, and we kicked people's butts from all across the country, which is always awesome. And one thing too, so the offer for the full-time job is not just based off of the 2 interviews that you get to go to Rise, right? So we will reevaluate you throughout the entire program, which means we'll be providing real-time feedback, which is another element that you'll get to be able to refine your skills similarly as to how you would in a regular summer-long internship. So just because your team wins or doesn't win at the end doesn't necessarily like guarantee you the full-time job. So just keep that in mind. I don't want you to think like, oh, if my team doesn't win, this was for naught. Last year, we had a 96% offer rate. So we're heavily vetting at the front end, and then really just making sure that there's a cultural fit and that you guys are able to problem solve and work together during the actual program, and then the full-time job. So just something else to mention. And that was it. So let's see. I kind of raced through it. I hope that it wasn't me talking the whole time and you're just like zoning out. But I would love to open it up to Q&A for any questions that you have, program specific or not, just to the company, to my experience here, consulting, being a female. I'm happy to answer any questions that you guys might have. So feel free.
Thank you, Anna. I think I'll start off with a question. So I know on one of the slides that you had on Rise, you said that it's open to like all like technical majors. So I know on this call we have some like computer engineers. I am a bioengineer. Like, is it really open to like all of those majors, or are there certain majors that you consider more than others?
No, so that's the cool part about Capgemini. So you'll see people from majors that make no sense to IT consulting, but it's about the experiences and the culture that you're able to bring to us. So no, there is no like formal criteria. You must be computer science and no one else is qualified. That's not the case at all. the cool kind of relevant part about how we put you into teams is very realistic to what you'll experience on a client site. So not only will you be sitting with Capgemini consultants from like geographically places across the world, but also all of their backgrounds are going to be different, from the amount of time they've been in consulting to this, what they studied in school, what they didn't study in school. So we'll kind of put that real life scenario to the test in your actual RISE groups. So no, as long as you are technically, focused and you're willing to learn and you're willing to go through training, if we want to skill you up in something, that's all that matters. And we want to make it a female focused program. So I also forgot to mention that at the beginning. That's the ultimate goal. So women in technology, we want to essentially have this program be like a super supportive, great outlet for you to feel really comfortable, not even just in applying, but going through the program, feeling like you learned stuff and that you felt supported in the next step of your career. So long story short, yes.
Great. Thanks so much.
Of course.
I have a question sort of about your experience as a Capgemini. What is one of your favorite things about working there? And then on the flip side, what is something that you would change if you could?
Okay. So one thing that has been my favorite piece about working here and why I have not left after 4 years, and I don't plan to, is I have been able to basically do any job that I want. So I started like a full-time consultant, like all of you would. I came through the campus program. I got hired into a practice. I went to training. I was on the client site. And it was awesome, right? So I did that for over a year and I learned so much. I got really frustrated. I had huge wins and traveled and it was amazing, right? But I wasn't doing as much face-to-face time as I wanted to. So that's why I looked into something else. And the transition from me being a consultant to me being internal and recruiting didn't take a village. I didn't have to move any mountains. I didn't have to have 45 additional interviews and sit around for 8 weeks hoping that someone would take me seriously. It was, oh, you want to do this and you think you can add value? Great. Here's your opportunity. And what I'm even realizing internally is a lot of the things that are happening because people say there's a need for this and I can make it better and I'm going to put in the time and I'm going to see it through. And I'm not sure that that happens at other firms. So it's really exciting to be able to say there is a gap. I think I can put it together. It goes to the CEO, they approve it, and now it's a new program. So RISE is a really like visual representation of that it's in itself. And that's not even from the like technical side of things. So from a technical client facing side of things, it's the same way. If you see a need and you want to go and you learn something because you know it's going to add value, we'll pay for the certification. We'll pay for the training class. We'll make sure that you get there. You just have to speak up. And that has been a really exciting opportunity, especially when I was just out of college. I had no clue that people even cared about who I was or what my name was. It was really exciting and really empowering. And I feel like it's put me on a really good trajectory for actually making change in what I do every day. So then the thing that I least like is right now I live in Florida. So I started my career in Atlanta and we have an office there. We don't have an office like a Capgemini office in Florida. So I've been remote even pre-COVID. So that's one thing that I wish we just had an office just so that I can continue to stay, actively participating in the culture of Capgemini and going and meeting coworkers and having that face-to-face time. But I heard that there's rumored to be one coming to Miami. So hopefully that's getting fixed soon. But I don't have, honestly, other than just transitioning from a college student to a full-time employee, which are going to come with struggles in and of itself. I've enjoyed my time here fully. Any other questions?
Great. I will go ahead and ask another one.
Sure.
So you probably get this question a lot as a recruiter, but like, what does like make a candidate stand out on a resume or in an interview? Like, what are some tips you could give to us?
Absolutely. So first and foremost, don't make your resume more than one page at this point in your career. Just pro tip from logistics side of things for me. But even if your experience in a certain technical area is only in your schoolwork, my best advice is to be able to talk about it as if it was a work experience on your resume and bring it up as if it was a work experience in your interviews. We want to know that you one time took a Java class, but if you can't speak to it, it's not worth putting on your resume. So my biggest recommendation is to be able to say, I can back up all of these skill sets that I put on this resume, and I can go into depth on what my involvement was. And even if it was for a 6-week project, like ideally you talk about an internship that you had last year and you were doing something for 10 long weeks. But if that's not the case, please don't shy away from what you do have. And subsequently, if you've done anything on your free time, so it's not class required, if you wanted to build a video game and you're just kind of messing around and playing around with it, we also want to know about that, because ultimately, because we're IT consulting, we want someone who is just genuinely passionate about IT. So whatever technology that falls under, we want to just know that it matters to you when, the end of the day of like the corporate clock shuts down. And genuine positivity and excitement and clarity and being able to articulate. I think that those seem really obvious, but even if you're nervous, clear communication in a consulting environment is going to be paramount importance. So just rely on your own skills that you have and the social skills that that you have when you feel a little bit nervous about maybe articulating the schoolwork, for example. Ultimately, every person that we want to bring on is both business focused and technically focused, so that they come together to create this perfect consultant that can be client facing, can go work on the back end and kind of flex and go all over the place. But we will teach you and skill you up in the areas that maybe you're lacking a little bit on. So just keep that in mind. I know that you all have so much to offer, and if you're just able to clearly express yourself, even just from talking about what you like to do outside of school, it could still go a really long way in your interview. And I'll add something else. We want to know what you like to do. We want to know what you don't like to do. So if you had a 10-week long internship doing front-end development and you freaking hated it, like, tell us that. We don't want to bring you into something that you're going to say, holy crap, I am doing something that just because I'm, a CS degree and I have these skills listed, I don't want to do this. It's already something I've decided isn't a passion of mine. Make sure to bring that up. We want someone who's going to be flexible and not say no to anything, but we do care that you already have had enough experience potentially in something to decide that it's not where you see your future career going. So keep that in mind, both things you really, really like to do and things that you just could never do again. Make sure to bring those up. What else?
Yeah, I have a question about just like being a new grad in general. What things like surprised you the most going from school to a full-time job?
It's a great question. I'm glad that you brought this up. It is exciting to be finally independent and finally 100% accountable for the perception of yourself. So in college, there's a lot of things outside of what you do in school that, you get to know people personally, socially, like you get to be able to experience things in a lot of different levels. But being able to start from scratch and decide who you want to be on your first day of onboarding, which is your first day of Capgemini, is really exciting, but also a little bit scary. Everyone wants to go ahead and decide that they're going to be the next CEO, right? So they're like, I got to shake 1,000 hands and send 1,000 follow-up emails, and I'm not doing enough work. I'm only working, 45 hours. I need to be working 60 hours. This is not what my career ladder is supposed to look like. So it's exciting because you get to start over, but sometimes people get a little bit too carried away in saying like, oh my gosh, I'm not doing enough yet, because your time will come. So it's all about, making a really good impact, making yourself feel approachable, and still sending those follow-up emails, but knowing that it takes time, and that every experience on a client side that you have, or a new executive that you get to interact with, they'll help you build your next step, but it doesn't all happen in 1 year. So it's kind of trying to weigh that. But I think that we do a really good job. So let me give you a little bit of insight into what your first couple of months as just a full-time employee look like. So everyone will go to 2 weeks of onboarding. And so typically that's in person. You are in a hotel that we rent out for the entire 2 weeks. So it's kind of like summer camp, kind of like school. You're like not sure what it is, because you have like your American Express card, but you like don't take a class. We have a laptop, and it's kind of odd, but it's a really good transition time to be able to say, okay, holy crap, we graduated. Holy crap, we have a full-time job. Now, what am I doing? Like, what is my actual job function, my day-to-day? Who do I need to report to? What is an expense? What is it, a timesheet? All of those questions get answered, and you're with, like, hopefully, when we are able to get back in person, like 80 other new hires from all across the country. So you're able to balance transitioning into a full-time career, still being like a fun 20-something-year-old, and marrying those together. So it is really exciting. And then you also go into, it's called CWC, it's called collaborating with clients. So we bring in trainers. For my class, they came from London, and they were awesome. And you basically go through, like, similarly to not like a case study, but you get thrown into these like real life client facing situations and how to overcome them. So sometimes you'll have a really, really sweet client, and sometimes you'll have an a-hole who hangs up on you or cuts you off in the middle of a presentation. And it basically is just additional preparation. It's fun. It's supposed to be lighthearted, but the expectation is you then are prepared to be able to be giving a client facing presentation right after that. So it's exciting, it's digestible, and it's setting you up for success, which is really nice. Then after those 2 weeks, you'll go to, we'll basically align you to a specific area in our business. And so that is not like set in stone for the rest of your life. It's just based off of your skill set and the need where we see you can add the most value, right? So you'll go to additional training for that. So in the past, for example, we've had new hires join our SAP practice, and they've gone to India for 6 weeks to do training. They get certified, they get skilled up. And of course, all of that is covered by Capgemini. So it's this next additional portion where now you have your laptop, you know what you're doing, but what are you doing for this client? And you get trained in those specific areas. Then you do action learning. So you're on a client site, but you're not necessarily directly responsible for deliverables yet. So you can still mess up, you can still get confused and where to sit in a cafeteria for lunch, but you have someone that's directly there to mentor you. Then you finally become a billable piece of that project where you are actively adding value. You have expectations of work. You have deadlines to meet and goals and things like that. So that is realistically like 3 months before you even are directly responsible for work. We're taking you through a transitional phase, which really, really helps getting out of the college mindset and into the full-time mindset. And the thing that I love is that we don't hold your hand. So we're there to support you. You have resources, you have mentors, you have online training modules and things that are there to make sure that you are on track. But if you don't want to do the work, we're not going to force you to. So it's, again, another good balance of, Anna, I don't know how to do this, or I'm going to ask you to go refer to a document that I sent you that has all the information that you need in it. So it's a balance, but it's a very digestible transition is what ultimately that was my description for.
That was great. It's like so nice to hear about like how many like systems Capgemini has in place, like with the Rise program and then beyond to kind of like help with the transition and stuff. That's something that I feel like I haven't heard that much about. So it's definitely a very cool aspect and definitely very something that we would all be interested in, I'm sure.
Definitely. And There's other stuff too. Like I haven't really touched on this stuff outside of the client facing work, but we have employee resource groups. They're just like clubs. I know a lot of firms have them, but they're a realistic part of what keeps you here. So if I can just touch on that for a second, I'm a part of our life ERG, which is about work-life integration and balance. And it's just been really exciting to be involved in something that still gives you recognition and credit, and you're still passionate, but it's separate from your client facing work. So it helps build your network in an immense way, because when you are able to make Capgemini feel a little bit smaller in the sense that you have a network that you can go to for XYZ, it gives you a lot of power, and it makes you feel like, you know what, I'm going to become a co-lead of this national ERG and have recognition from, again, like our CEO or our like global executives. It's really cool and tangible. And that was something that I did within my first year. So I encourage you to think about, just my own personal recommendation outside of my Capgemini recruiter is, what excites you about the job outside of the job itself? Because once you're a year in, the exciting butterflies are going to go away. And I just mean that honestly. And you're going to be like, holy crap, I'm going to work for the rest of my life, like until I retire, right? So am I doing something that A, gets me excited to get out of bed in the morning, or B, I have the opportunity to get involved in things here that give me that excitement? And I know that, you guys think right now it's like, just get the full-time job, just make college worth it, just, make our parents proud and get the salary and the health benefits. Like, I totally get that, but try to think about what happens after that, because it's really real. And I want you to all feel comfortable that you made the decision that is going to be the long term, like it's going to be sustainable. And it doesn't have to, you don't have to work here for 50 years. I totally get it, but just keep that in mind as you're going through this process. And anyone that you talk to, again, like this is not just me as a Capgemini recruiter. This is just anyone that you talk to at any firm, like grill them, talk to them about what they like, what they don't like, ask them about the culture, ask them about what they do on a regular Friday night if they get their work done early. Like all of those things are going to be showing you a little bit more of an insight into what the actual life of these employees are like. Because like I said, you are going to be, unless we're the next best inventor in something, like we're going to be working for the rest of our lives. So it is important. And another thing that I wanted to mention is all of these things are a first year. It's not like you have to wait or be a tenured employee to then, accelerate into a different area of an ERG or of a different area of Capgemini in general. Like all of these things, if you care and are passionate and you can make the time,
And I think you might be frozen. Can you hear me? There we
you want to be a
go.
full-time employee.
You're
so
back. Okay.
Did I lose you? I'm so sorry.
Just for like 1 second.
Okay. Long story short, even I, as a resource, want to be able to, bring you to info sessions. I want to bring you to career fairs. I want to show you, I want to take you to happy hours so that you can bring the next group of new hires and show them the culture and show them what you've learned and all of those things. Like even being able to go to a career fair, it doesn't sound like something you want to do. I get it right now, but when you have maybe like a really regular schedule and you can break it up and we can go to dinner and I can introduce you to 5 cool executives, like those connections matter. And that is a realistic part of what I try to do with everyone that I bring on. So just like a little side note, that's not that important, but I just wanted to make sure it was added. Okay, is there anything else? I know I've talked a lot.
Any more
Okay,
questions?
well, I will
No, think
always be
we're
available. LinkedIn, you can email me. Kendall, feel free to share my contact information. Even if you say I don't think that Capgemini is the fit, if you just want to talk to me as a recruiter, not as a recruiter, I am always here for you. I think that this is what I was supposed to do my whole life, is just help people. And I think that deciding your first career can always be really daunting. And I'd love to be able to just provide any insight that I can to help you make a really good decision. But hopefully it is with Capgemini. Hopefully you're jazzed about the RISE program. Hopefully you apply tonight and I can see your application and get you through the process as soon as possible. But please let me know if you need anything at any point. Hopefully when we're back in person, I'll be back on the West Coast and I can meet you all in person. But in the meantime, Kendall, thank you so much for having me. And I look forward to hopefully seeing you all apply for the RISE program.
Yeah, thank you so much for coming, Anna. You shared so much information with us and it was all so helpful and I learned so much. And just thank you for taking time out of your day, especially in Florida where it might be a little later. So thanks for being here.
Of course.